From there, they're going to take a prioritized list, categorize them based on buckets, and then submit on-chain proposals for the budgets and treasury withdrawals subsequently. So if you want to have an administrator as Intersect and you want to not pay $100 deposit, this is your path.
Yeah, y'all feel like this is the response the larger community was looking for after the initial process was kind of stopped?
Yes and no.
Yeah, I mean, because on SpacePlace, right? We were sitting in here. Kyle, you particularly like complaining about the growth and marketing committee and not consulting other bodies or entities, right? Because this was just a bullshit. Like, how are you going to spend all this money? And so, like, in a lot of ways, this is a reactionary kind of knee-jerk reaction, too far in the opposite direction, in my opinion, of like, okay, well, if the committees are not qualified to parcel out the funds, who is? The only people that are the voters, the direct active voters in the ecosystem, right? Like,
I thought it was going to be leaner and meaner, and instead it looks like organization for the sake of organization, and there's not really anything leaner about it. I mean, you know, like
I think that, you know, if they do this right, it can be a good process. It's just too soon, too fast. And that's the problem. And so what I mean by that is that, okay, the whole let everybody submit proposals, that's sticking to the ethos of Cardano. That doesn't mean that your proposal is going to go up for a vote. There's an intermediate process where where in an ideal world, D-reps would upvote and downvote those proposals in a kind of pseudo off-chain model, right? And then also upvote and downvote each other's opinions so the community can get a better view of what D-reps are worth of shit and what they're thinking.
Well, so I think there's some confusion here, right? Because there still seems to be this drive to declare a Cardano budget rather than an Intersect budget, because anybody can propose their own budget that has whatever line items in it that they want, and then they can audit it, they can administer it, they can be accountable to the community, and if they fuck up, then we don't ever give them any budget again because they suck, right? Like, but then like Intersect seemed to throw its own internal processes for budget out of the window, and then they changed it to this whole like anybody can apply to be a part of the Intersect budget, and the committees have no kind of control or say over what goes into the Intersect budget. So what actually is the Intersect budget at that point? Like, I wouldn't propose an Adam Dean LLC budget where like Josh, Ryan, and Bob can all add whatever the fuck they feel like to it, and I have to just be stuck with it. I'd be like, no, go propose your own budget, right? Like, so to me, I think that's the weirdest part of this whole pivot, is that you're not allowing, like, if it's just Intersect doing one thing, and then Catalyst goes and then does their own thing, CF goes and does their own thing, IO goes and does their own thing, then maybe we get to a point. But I think the committees still need to have some sort of curation control. Otherwise, what are the committees there for? Like, what's the point of the committees? Like,
but I mean, yeah, you're talking about treasury. I mean, surely you must have like financial experts like within the, you know, in different departments, right? So like you're talking about
Departments.
Oh, you know about when I say departments, I'm talking about Intersect. You got CF, Emergo, whatever. Like, they've got to have financial experts on there. Like, surely people are voting in people with
CF is the only one that I can guarantee actually has financial expertise.
Who's that? Sorry,
CF.
Oh,
like,
right.
They've got their whole accounting system. There are former bankers and financial people.
I was talking,
I'm sure IO and everybody else does. But,
yeah, I would bank on IO having that expertise in house too.
Yeah, I would have thought so too. So what is the financial expertise of Intersect really then?
Probably none.
Well,
I mean, maybe external
trust me, bro. You want me to hang on? Let me get a crayon and I'll write you up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what? Then why they need? Surely they need some sort of. They need to prove some sort of capability before they can do anything with it, right?
Well, and so I think that's one of the big criticisms that I heard of the overall process was that Intersect is an unproven quantity right now, right? They were given some amount of money that we're still unclear about. It's
Do we know what it was
unclear.
used for?
It's unclear how they've spent it or how much they're
Okay, so zero transparency.
not zero, but not enough transparency. Let's
And
call
we
it
are,
that.
and we are
Okay.
asking,
I should
and
be careful with my words.
and
Right, okay.
we should have soon their average outlining their overhead down to salary by job type or average salary by job type. So we can, I mean, the Intersect has 40 heads, 40 full-time jobs.
I mean,
Yeah, this is what I've been missing the whole time. I've been wondering what is minimum viable Intersect, and at no stage so far do we have any idea of that. 40 employees being paid what? And
but,
all this other ancillary.
I heard this offhand. I don't know if it's true, but I think the average salary across 40 is like 150 and change or something like that. It's pretty fucking crazy.
I mean, call me crazy. Like, I'm here to ask like the stupid questions and whatnot. But isn't
Well, I don't know how much a secretary makes in the UK, Josh. You might have to do some research on that.
My point being, no, that's not it. We should be able to see it. Like, we are on Cardano, right? Cardano is a public ledger. We can see where money goes, right?
To some degree, there's still private companies, and Intersect is still ultimately a private company, right? Like it's formed where it's somewhat beholden to its members, and so there are laws, particularly in some European states, against disclosing like an employee's actual salary, right? Like an employee could talk about how much they make, but if the employer discloses that,
if it's
then
publicly
they're
funded over here, then it can be disclosed. So
right, but now no
charity,
country,
for example.
Right, but right now nobody has that definition. Like when you get your money directly from a blockchain, does that count as public funding?
So
I mean,
like
I work with Catalyst, and all the money that we spend is public, and we tell everyone how much everyone's getting paid.
Well, that's how you treat it, right? But that's up to you how you account for it personally. But like, does the UK recognize Cardano as a public funding source?
Part of this, Josh, is Intersect coming and asking for 20 million ADA, and part of them being able to even get anywhere close to being able to receive that is showing the community their receipts. So what's your operational overhead? How do you justify that amount of cash? And so that's
you have it's a business plan like anything else. Am I wrong? Am I being dumb?
But how much? What do we know about Intersect's business plans?
It's the lack of reference point. Yeah.
How do we know that they're not going to turn into the foundation and just close up all public information? Why should they? If they get 20 million ADA that they don't have any, huge chunk of cost there, ADA goes up to $10 or $20. Why should they ever tell you anything after that point? Right? Being a member does not get you any access to any more information than anybody on Twitter has. That's what sucks about it. Like that. I don't know. I have a real hard time with nonprofits, right? Specifically when they are legal nonprofits, because there is not a single nonprofit that I'm aware of, and I've been involved with a few of them over the last 10 years. They all have mission statements that let them do whatever the strongest personality decides they should do, right? And there's nothing different about Intersect in that regard.
Yeah, and I did get a DM here that just to clarify that, like, even in the US, we don't have any actual, we don't have individual salaries for anybody, even if money's being spent by the US government. All we know is we spent 20 million to XYZ, Boeing or whatever. We don't get a breakdown of how they spent the money. All we know is we got 5 jets delivered, sort of thing. So we probably get more details than that, this much is salary, this much is time and materials sort of thing, but not a granular buy.
Well, you don't need a salary.
We don't know how much they pay the
CEO,
need, right?
But like a DAO, when it has its tokenomics, you have your budget on your marketing, you have your budget on your whatever.
Well, that's part of the criticism too, is that Intersect has all these line items in the budget that they were trying to go direct for the treasury for that should have been Intersect overhead that should have come out of that 20 million. right? Like
Yeah.
things that make Intersect more competitive that they should do by natural cause of just being, you know, in the role they were in. So, yeah.
So I love
Yeah,
Chris's
well,
new office as well, by the way. I'm just going by the comment at the bottom. But
right?
yeah,
That
but
is a nice guitar.
it does seem like Intersect is the you know, the thing I know the least, I should say. But like everything you're saying just doesn't seem to make normal business sense. Like it's not transparent in that regard. We don't know. You're asking for money, like you've had money, don't know what it's for, what they spent it on, but they're asking for more money. It seems like you don't know what the new money's for. So like any DAO, like I've done loads on AdaPulse. They've always got a tokenomics pie chart, you know, like as simple as that. Like no, the drip drops one is my favorite. It was just 100% community token, but you know, but normally they're split up into different departments, so we don't need salary per salary. But surely it's like what roughly are you spending it on? What's budgeted to what? That's if it's public money, it should be public knowledge. Am I wrong?
I'm just
No,
saying.
yeah, and that's what we should be getting to. Like that's what like Sam.
It shouldn't be a getting to. It should be from the start. It should be something
Well,
you need to
this is
ask
the
for.
this is the first time doing it, Josh. Like so, like we are in the first
Okay,
budget
all right.
process. So
Yeah,
like,
it was a privately seeded entity, and they're moving away from private funds to being funded by the Treasury. So that should be
Right.
my
Okay.
biggest question
right.
is,
So
you know,
so like what Sam has proposed is like that we would actually save money.
I haven't
we
actually
don't try
heard
to-
what Sam said, so I wasn't on it. But
Well,
yeah,
so potentially we could do things by like on a project and milestone basis, or we could do basically like time and material contracting, right? So if we do time and materials, basically we're just paying for developers' time to do work for us, and then we as the community prioritize what they spend their time working on. And so usually we can get a lot closer to 100% utilization by doing that.
I like
right?
that idea.
And so
yeah,
and so Sam is not going to tell us what he is going to make, right? But he's going to say, I have 10 employees total. They cost, you know, X number of millions or like, and we're going to work on whatever you tell us to work on. Yeah. What do you want to do with these guys? And then if we have like some out-of-pocket expenses, we can build those in or whatever. Versus trying to figure out like how much is Laos worth to the community? How much are we willing to pay for it? We don't even know how much it's actually going to cost, right? So if we start trying to draw numbers around that, we could be way too high or we could be way too low, and whoever bids on those things is going to end up padding their salaries anyway. But that guy that's working now just on that Laos contract, we don't, even if he's only spending 50% of his time, he's billing at 100, you know, but we're just not getting that other 50% of his effort. So like that's usually how those things kind of end up working, because you're doing risk mitigation in how you bid these contracts. If this is the only contract I'm putting in for this year, I need to be paid for the full year. So it's going to cover my full salary, even if it's actually only taking 50% of my time, sort of thing. So like that's the danger of those two different contracting methods. But we haven't done this before, so those are just two different schools of thought around how we should
I'd say I love Sam's method. I think that's great. Like,
sorry, Sam, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know you're in the car.
And it's not my method per se. I mean, it's the Pragma already did this. They published a budget with how many engineers they needed to do work for the rest of the year, basically. So it's basically taking that model and saying, why don't we do this for the Haskell node instead of having a RFP bidding process where one company says, I'm going to take Laos, one company says, I'm going to take Paris, and you pay twice as much for it because both companies have to staff out enough people to be able to do all the consensus stuff that needs to happen. Versus if you have a joint process, you have the two companies talk to each other and it's like, hey, okay, we need to work on Laos and Paris. These are the ways we need to focus on it. How can we do this all together and basically utilize joint resources?
Kind of
exactly. It's more cooperative than competitive.
Yeah.
So this has been what I've been pushing for a while, and we'll see how things go and whatnot with this budget process and how things are going. But I mean, I think this is a much better way of doing things.
For me as a business
Than
owner, that's how I like when I have employees. If they're not doing anything, I'm looking for things for them to do. So I
yeah,
like the idea of like, right, we've got these people. What they're being paid. What do you want them to do? Oh, you want them to do nothing? Fine, they're going to do nothing. But
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
or if we don't have work for them, we let them
there's
go at the end
always
of the
work.
year, right?
So how is there not
Well,
work? It's one of the, it's like
everybody has
sales.
different skill sets, right? Like we don't have floors that need sweeping, or like I mean, yeah, you got time to lean, you got
My
time to clean.
toilets
Like I
need
used to work in a
cleaning.
factory, like I got it, Josh. But like on a blockchain specifically, yeah, like that's where we would need to potentially downsize if some
and it
people
empowers-
research
at
is
the end of the
always
year,
required.
but-
Research
it
is
empowers the technical working groups under the TSC to basically figure out how to put things together to reach towards the roadmap that the product committee has put out and basically said, this is where we want to go. And then that will be updated for 2026 of this is where we want to go, and we'll continue iterating the process there and whatnot. But yeah, so this is basically what my proposal is to do, is basically, can we take these hundreds of items in the TSC and basically say, well, of these, about 70 of them have to do with Haskell node development. So let's just put them all in the same proposal.
I would be really curious if we actually did, if our open call for tender was anybody and everybody that can and or wants to work on Cardano full time. Like if you have that capability in your life to say like you would have 1 year salary, how much would that salary need to be for you? And like, but you have to be 40 hours a week dedicated to Cardano.
you'll
No,
find that
no
a very
moonlighting or
inflated
whatever.
number.
Well, but I wonder how many people we would actually get that would like,
I-
it might surprise us that there's not that many, especially like Haskell devs and things like that are actually willing to raise their hand and be like, yeah, I'll come and do this.
I would work full time.
You also need to be making sure that they're qualified. You can't just have someone say,
Yeah.
oh, I want to
Well,
write Haskell
but-
code, and they've never written
why
a
I
line of
don't.
Haskell
Which
code
is why I
before.
don't.
What's wrong with that?
Why not, Sam? You're not qualified to determine who's qualified to work on Haskell code because you're just a committee member. Only the D-reps can just solve that. And so again, it comes back to who actually.
Well, what I'm saying is with this
And-
proposal, we empower the technical working groups to be able to make that decision and to be able to allocate more resources to another company if they have more people available, and take it away if they don't, basically. So like if someone quits a company, then can go to the suppliers that are currently trusted to do the development, and say, hey, any of you, can you pick up someone so we don't lose any
I think the point
I'm
though,
here.
Sam, is that you're coming from a little bit of a position of privilege in that you work
yeah.
for IO, which everybody obviously knows is like, okay, like we can trust IO, right? You have trust in the ecosystem. But to Josh's point, fuck yeah, I'll come along and I'll do work. Like, and so like a lot of people will raise their hands. So to say it's a little bit reductive to be like, yeah, we should just time and materials and let anybody that wants to work full time on Cardano throw their lot
this
in.
comes back to what we were talking about in the OSC with the maintainer retainer program that like you're working on over there in the OSC budget. The average Joe can basically come in and start working on Cardano through something like that, and when they prove their mettle, then they can basically get a full-time contract for it.
But
wouldn't that be a better way to go about it, in my opinion?
Not necessarily. I mean, like you think of like I'm literally running for school governor at my kids' school at the moment, so I'm going through their governance process. And then, but in my election, like anyone can submit as long as you meet the criteria. But you release a statement. It's a bit like a catalyst proposal to you guys, if you want to look at it like that. You put it out there, and then people vote on it that way. So you don't get just a nobody.
You gotta have a kid.
Unless they're an influencer, then I suppose you have that problem. But do you know what I mean? It's you put it all out there. This is what I can do. I've proven this is what I do. So I have this expertise. vote for me to? Would you? And I can spend I can spend a year on Cardano. Will you vote for me? I mean, is that so?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but there's a key word you had in there: qualifications.
Well, qualifications are in real world experience. Like in the statement that I made for the school was, you know, I work for Wild Science, which is my company, so I have expertise in schools and education. I work with SEND, like children with special needs and stuff, and we do science. But also, I did reference the blockchain as well, which actually may have put me at a disadvantage. But anyway, yeah, but I was, you know, because it's about data analysis, voting, governance. You know, and that's decentralized governance. That's way beyond what they're doing, you know. So yeah, so we all put our statements out there. Only 4 of us did it because we're the 4 that are saying we're committed to spend the time to do this, and this is who we are. Vote. Like, it doesn't seem that difficult to me, but unless I'm oversimplifying it, I don't know.
Well, yeah. So the problem is, and the thought experiment was, right, like, especially if it was just for like core development, like who is a Haskell developer that's interested in like giving us a full-time employee equivalent of a Haskell engineer that can do development work in the ecosystem. If we asked for all those hands, we could probably afford to. Yeah, we're not going to get very many, so we could probably afford to pay all of them whatever they're asking, and it would actually end up being cheaper than being like, well, Laos is 20 million, so let's give you that. Like, we just pay like all of those people to put all of their effort wherever they fit into. Ooh, look at that pretty old donut hat.
I didn't know who that was.
Here.
Anthony, you forgot to take your hat off leaving the gay bar.
He's
yeah,
like,
Adam,
I haven't left the gay bar.
Hey, buddy, he's out by the river, I think. Have a good time.
What were you saying, Sam?
I'm not opposed to that process. The question is basically, how do you measure how good they are and where do they go? And yeah, and how do you prevent someone that like has no qualifications and is like, well, I'm going to do this and take the $350,000 salary or whatever it is for myself, and I'm just not going to do any work and whatnot.
But D-Rep's going to vote someone like that in?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, they might for at least 1 year, right? But
yeah.
then
to Adam's point, the D-Reps are no more or less qualified than the CC council members. They're probably less qualified than certain council members for sure. But the issue is that if the D-Reps fuck it up, then that's proof of stake, right? Where if the council members fuck it up, then that's you know.
Yeah,
something.
I mean that's a good point though.
So.
Yeah, I mean, like this is the scary part. This is decentralization, right? Like, this is not having a single vendor lock-in that is the single source of truth and development. So we have to figure out a way that we start to trust people. And so it could be that like you don't get D-Rep support unless you've started showing that you've been a contributor and you've gone through that, you know, the maintainer retainer program in the open source. So maybe there is a stepping stone. I think Christian in the open source office would call it the contribution ladder of how you go to getting involved to that level. But then once you're at that level, once you are an IOG or a Twig or a Well-Typed or some of these other contractors that we have, then you can just stand up and be like, hey, I'm going to give you guys 5 guys this year. And here's
exactly.
what they cost.
Exactly. That stair stepping model, I think, is the key.
Yeah.
I think you could say the same thing about almost any facet of the budget.
Yeah.
Right? Like there are. Oh, Chris, mute your mic up before you open a bag of chips, bro.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
It's this whole time. Yeah,
That's so funny.
it's just like I'm gonna unmute myself while I open these chips.
Yeah, hang on. Let me open these crisps. It's fine.
Everybody hear me?
Oh, my dog's barking. I better unmute myself.
Punching your ear real quick.
I think I heard you, Jane.
Sorry, Jane. We can hear you.
I'm just gonna fire a gun for a bit because I know he's got one on his desk.
What was that, Jane?
No, I just didn't know if you could hear me or not.
We can't see you though.
We can't see
You
you.
know.
That's because
Well,
Jane is still anonymous. She's
but
still just a play on
alas,
the internet.
Yeah.
but alas,
Jane,
I'm a clay with shades.
um,
But yeah,
all right,
like the point being, we could do that actually, like with any other faucet of the budget. I think like events. Like there are known people that do good events. IO, Rare Evo, Discover Cardano, like that they have a track record of
Upstream, I
going
got
out
to give
and
shout out to Upstream as well. They
oh
do
yeah,
good in
Mark
the
and
UK.
Upstream, yeah, like those
Yeah.
guys are amazing, right? Like so there are people where you get a small budget and you do a little local meetup and you prove that that was successful. And then when you want to ask for $1 million ADA or $1 million or whatever, like you better be able to sell it to the D-reps based on a proven track record, So like it is potentially a good model where
And that's essentially what the Rare Evo proposal was basically giving this ability to run these like $10,000 events. And after you get that, then you can move up to a 50,000 event and then a multi-million-dollar event after that. So, I mean, yeah, I think if we applied that across the board, it would basically, you might get a little bit of loss in the first year, hopefully at one of the lower tiers, where people come in and they say they can do things and they don't deliver and you lose out on that. You're probably not going to sue them to get the money back. But you at least prevent them from getting the big ones.
well, let's not forget, we still have Project Catalyst.
Yeah, which
Like-
runs through milestones as well, and that's how. And and that will also display who's delivered and not delivered. I'm looking forward to what's going to come out of what Danny's going to come out, with the end of Fund 9, and seeing who's really rinsing the system and who's taking.
Well, if they failed and haven't completed, they're not really rinsing the system, right? But like,
well,
you can already search names and see how much they've got.
Yeah, but if they've just taken like the first milestone payments or whatever, and then that's it, then that's rinsing the system. But
Okay.
if it's overpaid stuff for like, oh, hang on a minute, you wanted 3 million, or you wanted 500,000 ADA to register a bike, like on the blockchain.
Well, I mean, you could always disagree with the cost, right? But if people ultimately voted for it, they ultimately voted for it, right?
Well, absolutely, but but Well, we'll see. I just think something interesting might come out of.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of field days with, I mean, we already have it with people going like searching Lido and going like, ooh, look at how much Josh has gotten.
But I foresaw this. I foresaw this happening. So when I took over AdaPulse, I actually took over Fund 9 proposal because I didn't want AdaPulse to have an uncompleted, funding or whatever. So I wanted it done. But then, obviously, months later, then Danny tweeted, we're gonna close it all off, and we're gonna see everything or. And whatever, and I felt pretty happy about that.
Well, what I want to know is how we're going to react when Emergo comes in for 50 million ADA proposal.
What category has 50 million ADA though?
There's no category.
No, straight from the treasury.
Well,
There's no category. We're the commercial arm of Cardano. We kicked ass all these years. We're coming in for it. How do you think?
That's a big problem.
Yeah, doesn't seem very fair. Like, can they not go for Catalyst? Can they not do it like that and split up?
Haven't really done anything.
Do you think the D-reps will support
it? Well, I don't know. Would they?
I don't think
so.
A
D-rep.
I think they've expressed their intent to get more involved, right?
No, I mean, everything I'm hearing is that they're divesting from Cardano. They just.
Right, they're shutting down their education arm, their academy, and so like, are they sticking around, or are they just trying to get a paycheck on the way out the door?
Hey, they made Rory, so
Rory is actually a really good
wallet at this point. Been around the last couple
that's all I know.
Yeah, I haven't heard that because I've been around a lot in the last couple of weeks, but if they're divesting from Cardano, that's a big deal too, right?
No, that's just
No.
random speculation. Like, so that's not at all
that is-
confirmed or anything.
none of
That's
these are
rumor.
All these
Guys,
are-
my kids are home from school, so I gotta bounce. Talk to you later.
Okay.
Take
All
care.
right. Hey, take care, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
for your ideas, man. I appreciate you.
I've never met that guy before. I haven't met you. I haven't met you, Bob, either. So nice to meet you.
I love
Yeah,
these.
normally they say something back, but all right.
No, it's all right, Josh.
Actually, you guys should be on the same videos.
Early space places. Josh is the only one that shows up shit faced.
Look,
Most of the time.
it's 8 o'clock at night for me. It's like afternoon for you. So you know, this is my.
It's barely 1 p.m. here, Josh. So
I got
like,
in trouble
I have to
with
start
my
drinking
wife.
again so we can.
I
so
left
you
her
know
in the
all.
lurch with all the kids, so I can grab a load of whiskey and other bits and bobs, and sit and chat with you guys.
I liked your hat, Anthony.
I liked it.
I liked it too. I thought it was cute. I was
Most
jealous.
gays would love that, I think. Okay.
So, what's the easiest problem to solve on Cardano right now? What's the solution?
Oh, God.
I love specific questions.
Easy stuff.
We should put you in charge, Jane. That's what
I don't-
surely we all agree on the easiest thing to solve on Cardano right now.
No, we got to
Surely.
identify the problems first. What are the problems on Cardano? Then we can categorize them, and then we figure out which one's easiest.
That sounds like a working group and a committee in progress right now.
James, the process.
projects keep leaving. I haven't got a problem with projects leaving, but I just feel like Cardano's not quite. They come to Cardano to start like World Mobile, for example. They come here, start shit, and if they realize it's not quite working.
I'm going to repeat something that somebody else said that they didn't want to say in public.
Okay.
But basically, World Mobile should have waited for an L2 on Cardano. They didn't have to go and build their own chain. So effectively, they extracted value from the chain. That's what.
Yeah, I mean, I don't fully. Yeah. Okay. What? Because it was all. I mean, they started off with Cosmos, wasn't it? After they split from Cardano, went to Cosmos, which on paper didn't work from the beginning, as far as I'm aware. Like it could only support so many nodes or something, and there's 1,000 on World Mobile, like Earth nodes. So from the beginning, that was never going to work. But they tried to make it work, and it didn't work. And now they're moving to what, base or something, or I don't know what it is.
They're going to be an L3 on top of base, which is already obviously a centralized L2 database pretending to be a blockchain. So, like, essentially, they're going to run it all as a database.
They
So-
want to do
Could
Decentralization.
they've
and-
got the fast finality on a layer 2 on Cardano?
they,
Because I know
like
that was
Midgard
the
and shit comes out, yes, like easily.
when what comes out?
Midgard, like what Anastasia Labs is, like an optimistic roll up L2 is what all these ETH L2s are, and like Phil and company at Anastasia Labs are doing it better, more secure, and everything else on Cardano, and like Sundial is slated to be demoed later this year. So like, I don't know why all of a sudden it was like we have to go right this second, like, and then pivot to yet another blockchain. Because like you said, I think they went through Cosmos and AVAX and a few others before. Now they're on base, and essentially the TLDR for a lot of those is that like it's projects go where they're willing to write a check, because then a lot of times it comes down to where you can get them,
well,
where you can keep paying your salaries.
I mean, like
Well, we paid them enough money. Like I paid them a load of money, so
telecommunications industry in the United States is a very closed society, and they want to grow in the United States. So I'm sure that at some point, some brilliant person said, if you want to do telephone services in the United States, then you have to be a part of the system that everybody else is.
they don't want the United States.
That's not.
They don't want the United States. They want Africa. They want developing countries.
No, they're doing what they got to do. Like hitting market fit is hard. You have to pivot to do it. So I don't blame World Mobile for doing what they had to do. I don't blame them for not.
I don't care when people move chain either, personally, because I'm all
No,
about
no,
interoperability anyway.
Well,
So
shit. Okay, there's different facets. If you're moving chain to try and hit your market fit, that's one thing. When you look at somebody like the apes, they're just moving chain to move to the next drift, right? There's no real true market fit there. Axo, they didn't even move change. They just bottomed the fuck out because they missed market fit, right?
they did it at such a funny time as well.
But if you're going to
Well,
rebrand, I think the most important point here is if you're going to rebrand, like your branding, it's the theme. If you're not shut the fuck up. If you're not Batman,
Yeah, shut the fuck
don't
up.
do yellow. Don't
No,
do
let
yellow
me
and
speak.
black.
Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
I was talking about World Mobile changing their color theme to yellow and black, the Batman theme.
Oh,
Yeah, that was a bit lame, actually.
it looks like a BS.
I don't know what was wrong with their previous brand. Like, it was unique. It was fit.
They paid somebody $50,000 to draw them a B butt.
So,
I mean, it's the same W.
Well,
it's just
sorry, hang
more
on. What,
primitive,
so
right?
that new logo you're saying cost, and all the
I
brand.
No, that
Yeah,
you're just pulling
Oh.
shit out of his ass as usual.
Oh, right.
Right?
I was losing my shit there for a second.
I mean, they might have paid more than $50K. I don't know. Like some designers I've talked to are very, very high priced.
Yeah, not for that. My brand designer would do better than that for way less money.
Yeah, I'd have done that logo for $30 or $40.
Get it on Fiverr, maybe. But yeah, no. But World Mobile moving around, but so they.
Well, so that is indicative of a bigger problem. Is that and Rick would call it the projects that show up with a pitch deck and a promise. They came in to Cardano. They sold a bunch of NFTs and some tokens, going, "Yeah, trust us, we're going to revolutionize telecoms." But they had no idea how. What I mean, are they like they've got some satellites and some blimps? Like they got a Wi-Fi mesh network and some blimps, but what part is touching the blockchain right now?
Well, yeah.
So, like they funded a Wi-Fi network and some blimps with. So they didn't know how or why they needed blockchain in the first place. They came to because it was an easy source of funding.
Yeah.
They came to Cardano because we were hungry for deep in projects,
and
now they've pivoted away to where
like there's a lot.
This is not a World Mobile specific thing.
For the sake of it is an issue, and I think we should probably clamp down on that. I think we do as a community a bit anyway. But this blockchain for the sake of it needs to stop.
Right, like buying hype instead of actually like buying products that have a clear MVP and a clear lead customer that's actually going to utilize their solution, rather than buying solutions and then hope we find a problem later on. So and then Nicholas, I'll get to your question here.
Yeah.
What do we all think about the reconciliation process?
Before you do, who posts those comments at the bottom?
Oh, Chris controls that. So.
Why do you always post them while someone's talking?
Because it's your cue to shut up. If you look at here, and if you're saying 80% of the words, it's a really nice way of saying shut the fuck up.
All right. Okay. It is often when someone else is talking. I want to address that. So yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. This is a good one. Go ahead.
Anyway, so I had actually experience with all three of these in Japan last week because we had a private in-person workshop. There was some uproar on the Twitters, so we did a hybrid workshop, and then of course we're doing a virtual workshop right now, right? And so I would say there's value to in-person and virtual workshops. Hybrid workshops are really a pain in the ass because you end up spending most of the time trying to see if there's comments from the Zoom chat, and you ignore the fact that you have all these people around you. So it's kind of a wasted point. I think if you're going to be in person,
it's the worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get that good.
Yeah. It's constant IT problems.
But let's take a step back and address Nicholas's question exactly. The budget reconciliation process is different. you know, if we've got a ton of proposals, I believe that it would be good to do kind of like some preliminary reconciliation offline asynchronously. And we actually, Adam and I got pulled into a room to spec a tool that would help us do that. I don't know how seriously it's being taken or not, but it really should be. But that's a whole nother issue. But basically the idea of that was it would enable D-reps to upvote and downvote, prioritize all the proposals that came through by category, as well as leave commentary, and then have D-reps upvote and downvote other D-rep commentary, so you can kind of see where D-reps stand in position with each other, which I think would be really effective and helpful for governance. That being said, once we get a somewhat narrowed list and we filter out all the stuff that's just wild, right, that we don't even need to be wasting each other's time or breath in a room talking about because D-reps have maybe already downvoted it so far, then I think it can really help to have people in a room to discuss the budget. You know, but it's weird because it also gives a huge opportunity to influence. And so with the budgeting, you know, I'm not sure what the answer is, particularly if people are going to be in the room who are stakeholders and proposers of that budget. That may be a conflict of interest where that, you know what I'm saying, where you may not want to permit those types of people in the room unless they're answering very specific questions that are being brought up by the group. I don't know. I mean, Adam, what do you think?
Some people are quite more dominant as well in the sort of in-person chat. Like I am quite dominant, and I'm Carl. I'm sure you are too. And some people,
whether it's even in a virtual, like, right, like there's always there's the natural speakers, there's the natural people that want to sit back and listen. So you have a blend of both. But yeah, like, so I think you're at just as much risk of idiot with the loudest microphone kind of dominating the discussion, no matter what the platform is. But yeah, I think like Nicholas's point, like having standardized to make sure it's very clear what we're paying for, what the milestones are, who the team is.
Do people take minutes of these things? Do people?
It depends on what you're doing, right? Like, does it count? Does it count as budget reconciliation if we all fly to Puerto Rico, go to a bar, and talk shit about the budget? Like, is that a budget reconciliation meeting? Like, we're agreeing amongst ourselves what we support and what we're against. And
that's more of a debate, though, isn't it? That's a debate, and that's for yourself. Those sort of debates are more like, okay, you're arguing with someone over a beer, and then you'll get, but actually, you're going to take some of his points of view, and then the next day, you think about
you're refining your worldview, and you're arriving at a type of consensus, right? Is what you're doing. And so, whether that's with a group of 2 or 20 or 300 via a forum, ultimately, you know, like, it doesn't matter if you and I agree, Josh, if the other 800 people vote against us, right? Like, and so really what it's about is sharing your thoughts and opinions in the forum that you feel comfortable with others. So what I dislike, back to Nicholas's original point, is how with the Constitution, there was a focus on your voice only matters if you show up to the in-person event. Like, there wasn't an opportunity for asynchronous contribution or virtual only contribution. And that was a problem, because then it was very exclusionary to only the places that had events or only the people that could travel to events. So yeah, I'm not recognizing you either, Kyle. Shut up. So so yeah, so in-person only is bad, but I think a good combination of at least in-person and virtual. I hate hybrid. Hybrid sucks. Don't do hybrid. If you're going to be in person, be in person in the moment, having those human-to-human interactions. If you're going to be virtual, spend 8 hours on SpacePlace and go through every fucking line item of the budget.
Who's paying for these in-person meetings, though?
Me, like, I'll buy you a beer and let's talk about it. Like, let's go.
But, I mean,
like, what do you need for an in-person meeting? So this is the problem. We all keep looking to it for a centralized leadership figure, right? And to his credit, like, a lot of the times, like, if you listen to what Charles actually says, it's much more of a reluctant, okay, well, I will pay for this and I will do the things if you guys see value in it, because nobody else is standing up and saying, hey, let me organize some shit. Let me go and do this thing. Because, I mean, put in a budget proposal, right? Put in a treasury request, put in a catalyst proposal and say, I'm going to go and host these events. Here's what it's going to cost. And if the community sees value in it, they'll support it. But the problem is right now, everybody just kind of sits around and goes, yeah, well, CF or Intersect or Charles or somebody else will take care of that for us.
Yep.
So we don't have to worry about it. And that to me is the problem. Get
We
together
need
with
more
10
initiative.
buddies in your own neighborhood and just talk about it. Like
It's
that's what
funny
you need
you
to be
say
doing.
that because this is something I was going to add in future proposals because it's now it's all in ADA now. I can't put a dollar value on it, which is to me was a bit annoying. However, if I put like a contingency plan for the price of ADA, but what if that price of ADA goes up? Then I can say, well, actually, I'm going to attend these events with this money because so if I have this extra money, I can now do other things with it, you know, rather than just say I've got a contingency plan. Oh, the price went up. Oh, I just happened to make a shitload of money from this crappy project that I just did, you know.
Well, so the other part of that, especially if you're doing a direct governance action, you know, because like if you're going through Intersect, you're probably going to end up getting the dollar value that they convert it to on a certain given
I
day
only
and time,
use Catalyst
and
personally, but
they'll pay you dollars, right? But yeah, like so Catalyst, the problem is, yeah, like if the price goes up, like they don't ask you to have stretch goals, right? Like if you just got 2 or 3 times as much funding functionally, they don't ask you to have like stretch goals like Kickstarter does, where like it's like, hey, your budget is actually way more valuable now than it was before. So, but for like
and it just makes
actual
the
treasury
organizers
budget,
get more if it goes in their favor, like the market. Because the market's if we're going in the bull, you just put it into stable and it's safe and you can carry on your operation. But if you're in a bull, you can not do that, let it go up, and you start paying people less and less, and then you're left over with a load of money. So
yeah. So,
but what happens with that money is not accounted for. You know, people should be making promises of what they could do with that money, like attending events and whatnot, even if they're fun. Like it's still utilizing it for a good way. Like I'd love to go to Rare Evo, but you know, it's do you know what I'm saying? I'd love to have an AdaPulse stall there, but if you know, I could do that without budgeting.
You want a stool? I'll get you a stool you can come sit on. I'll put it in the corner.
yeah, we'll with an AdaPulse logo on it in our booth. But yeah, I mean, so Nicholas is saying like, isn't it all boiling down to measuring the sentiment of DREPs on specific proposals? I feel like people would prefer to going through the proposals at their own pace and signaling their preferences. Yes, so like I think that's a big part of it is like we have to cut out the noise. A vocal minority can't be allowed to kind of like overrule the popular sentiment of the DREP. So we need to make sure we're actually only figuring out what DREPs think, but DREPs might not know how they poll their community or their constituents. So like how they come to their determination could be through in-person events. It could be from talking to people. It could be from reading shit online or watching videos. Because I mean, everybody learns differently, right? So you have to allow for everybody's debate and deliberation and vote casting process to work differently as well. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, like we're gonna have rubber meets the road. The DREPs have to vote yes or no on a budget, right? And then they have to vote yes again on a treasury withdrawal. And if they don't do those two things, then like that is ultimately what it boils down to. So.
Well, that could be mandatory, right? That a DREP.
Oh, nothing's mandatory. This is all permissionless, and you come and participate up to your level of desire.
Josh, if you don't run your pool, you're probably going to lose your stake, right?
Say again?
I mean, maybe some of it's going to be sticky, right?
Yeah. If you don't run your pool, if you choose to shut your pool down, what's the consequence? You're going to lose your stake over time, right?
Well, yeah.
Same thing.
Oh,
Same thing.
yeah.
Do a bad DREP,
but that's only because my people are losing money, not necessarily like if you like Carl, if you just stop voting, a lot of people may not even notice.
Oh, sure. I mean, sure, maybe, but not. I mean, the people. It's
just like when a pool shuts down. To be fair, which is more money. That's money they're losing.
Stake pools got so much more political than DREPs have yet to get, but it's going to get 10 times worse. Once DREPs,
especially when there's DREP incentivization, yeah, like it's going to get going to get
It's-
just as ugly. Vote
it's
for
gonna
me
be-
because I'm going to give all of my DREP incentivization to charity. So
They're
give
gonna
me your
be
delegation, regardless of how I vote.
Yeah, it's gonna
it's Shelley all over again.
oh, it's gonna be so worse because you're gonna have voting records, and you may have an opinion. One D-rep may have an opinion which is pretty dense compared to the popular vote, and he just make it eviscerate. Like people are gonna go after that stake.
But I mean, I think over time, D-reps will, like the active D-reps are pretty obvious, and they
What are
tell how they're
politicians
voting.
though like? What are all the? They're all goofy ass hats, right? All of them.
D-reps do expire though. That's the one difference.
Aren't you a D-rep? Including
What do you mean they expire? They only expire if they're not voting. So
No,
that's
so they go, so they go inactive, and that's what Josh was talking about.
Yeah,
Like if you just
they go
used to do your
inactive
job,
basically, and they'll expire, and then people are
Well, they
forced
don't
to
expire, they
redelegate
go-
when they expire.
Oh, I
No,
didn't
no.
know there was a mechanism.
Or no, you're right. They're not forced to redelegate. They're only forced to redelegate if they retire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so here's the deal, Josh. I could not vote. I could stop voting forever. My constituents might get pissed off and leave, but if they stay, I could wake up at any time and vote, and all those votes that got put
Actually,
in
You
auto
could also
abstain.
lie and say I'm
Well,
voting for
The
whatever
ledger- the
budget
ledger-
thing was recent. That I'm voting this way.
no. You can't lie because if your D-rep goes inactive, you still can't withdraw your rewards because it looks the same as if you're not delegated to a D-rep.
Oh, really? That's an interesting.
So
Look,
your
Yeah,
delegates
I
are
didn't
going
know
to
that.
discover when they go to take out rewards and go, hey, by the way, did you realize your D-rep isn't active? Like you
How-
gotta.
It's totally
So
going to happen.
message to my D-rep. Keep
We're going to
fucking
see
voting.
reps that are saying, "I voted this and I voted that." They didn't do shit, and they'll get caught later. Like, wait,
That'll
Well,
be
and
interesting. That'll
all
be-
of the
I can see
platforms,
that
all of the
happening.
platforms, shout out to Shaggy and Ben and their D-rep ecosystem mapping and everything project. But Lido with 1694.io is already showing D-rep vote history. GovTool is adding D-rep vote history. Like we just didn't have those votes recorded on chain to start building those dashboards, but they're definitely coming.
Can
So-
someone explain Martin's post? I don't actually understand what you're saying.
yeah. So, I mean, Adam, you can probably explain it better if you want. But effectively, it's a tool. You remember how we used to have to vote? Stake pool operators would vote on certain things, and
Yeah.
a lot of times you'd either have to not vote at all if you didn't want to bring your hot keys cold, or excuse me, your cold keys hot to vote.
Yeah.
So, I think that's pretty much what it is. But Adam can give you the more technical.
Going back to what you're saying, I need to double check on that. But I thought that when they expire, you don't have to redelegate. That delegation is still with that D-rep, and it's not until they retire when you have to redelegate. I would have to double check on that though. But
No. But what Adam's caveat was,
Maybe.
Sam, is that if a D-rep goes
Delegation
inactive,
stays with the D-rep. So as soon as the D-rep becomes active again, your account is good. But I think it's when you actually try to do the withdrawal and your
Right.
D-rep is inactive, it looks as if you are delegated to an expired D-rep.
Yeah,
you have
I'm
no
saying
active
I think
delegation.
I think that's incorrect, but I can double check with the engineers tomorrow.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard it both ways.
That's
But yeah,
still
so
Sam. Is that Sam? Because his name's gone. Is that his Sam?
Yes,
Okay,
that
right.
is Sam.
yeah,
That is
Chris,
me.
when he starts doing the chats down below, it messes up the display.
Oh right, okay. Oh right, okay, fair enough. But yeah, I guess a bad D-rep model is worse than a.
It's gonna get so
Yeah.
stupid. Like I remember how dumb it was with stake pools over the most trivial shit. I remember people used to give Chris straight pool shit for changing his rewards every epoch to give different incentives, right? He'd go from 0% to I don't remember what the hell he was doing, but it wasn't that controversial. But just the shit everybody latched on was just insane.
Just thinking back to the first Shelley days and how people were behaving then and how they're compared to how they're behaving now is so different, But yeah, like I remember chasing for steak and just everyone was steak begging back in the day, Now everyone's come to the conclusion SEC ain't fucking moving.
Yeah,
So you
sure.
don't need your vote to become active. You can also just update your DREP metadata. That also counts. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take Nicholas's word for it.
Yeah,
I
that
don't know
part's
who
true.
Nicholas
Like,
is.
so
I
if you're inactive, all you have to do
is
basically
update your metadata.
Yeah, because I mean, some DREPs, it might be valid that like, so because I think the current timeline is like 20 epochs or whatever.
Yeah.
We might go through phases where there's no governance actions to vote on in that time period, right? So like, or there might be not anything that you feel is worthwhile. Like there's only info actions and not any protocol parameter changes.
It doesn't seem right that a DREP then should, because if there's nothing to vote on, would have to update their metadata just so they can stay alive.
The caveat is that whether or not rewards are being prevented from being withdrawn. If they're not, then it's not even worth the DREP doing because he'll reactivate when he votes again. You see what I'm saying? There's no harm.
Even after, I mean, I don't know how long.
Well, no, so
but their vote is no longer counted as a no once they go inactive. It basically is removed from the total stake going in, and it's essentially an abstain.
No, if there's no proposals, it doesn't matter, right?
It can matter in the first epoch of a new proposal coming in if your weight is not basically defaulting to no because you're inactive.
Okay, so what if I vote?
So let's say, and I'm sorry, you Kasan, we love you all.
No.
Hang on, shut the fuck up, dude, and listen. I'm trying to explain it to you, right? Let's say everybody except for Utah goes inactive. Utah is the only active DREP. A new proposal comes in and he votes yes. Now that proposal has 100% yes vote or yes weight until people reactivate their DREP profile. So that's where it does behoove you, if you're going to be a DREP, to make sure you stay active.
I think I understood that. I was more
by default, by not voting, you are signaling a no vote. You're preventing something from passing. You're making it harder to pass.
Well, I think that if the no vote is to be the status quo, then I think that's correct. Like I think if you don't vote, if that's the case, then that seems.
But if you really are just like never going to vote, then you get removed from weight. That's when you become inactive, right?
So what's the difference between because so an abstain removes your stake from the vote.
Abstain is like I don't care about the outcome, right? So that again also removes you.
Just take me away, but that's an active action you need to take.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I suppose any proposal is something new. So therefore, if you don't vote, it's a no because you're saying I'm happy the way it is. That's a good system. And I'm also glad
everything has to get to enough yes.
So telling me to shut the fuck up also made me happy as well.
Well, no, so you guys got to understand. People try to fucking raise their hands in SpacePlace. No, it's shut the fuck up. Like that's how you.
No, I liked it. It's the way I'm normally treated. Yeah.
So let me just clarify this with Adam real quick. So Adam, what you're saying is the risk is, let's say a proposal hasn't happened in 30 epochs. I'm not going to update my metadata. That's lame. The first epoch a proposal comes in, it's so fucking popular that it passes or closes. My vote still comes in as a no. But if I vote the second epoch, well, that'll be a yeah, right? I'll reactivate.
Yeah, so you'll reactivate as soon as your vote goes on chain. But the point is, it could already be ratified based on that first epoch.
I see. I could say no, and a whole bunch of other people could say no before we get a chance. And if every DREP doesn't vote that first epoch and change it, then we're fucked. So we got to be on point. Okay, I got you, Cloud. Okay, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah, you need enough weight to basically be constantly dragging it back down to earth and saying nothing's going to pass until at least a certain number of people. So this is where, unfortunately, Ryan had to drop off. But his tool that he has, where it shows the minimum attack vectors and everything, the MAV scores for governance, really comes in handy because he identifies the inactive or expired DREPs. so that you could see like, oh shit, like it only takes one dude to pass any proposal right now. That's like a good indicator. We need to get more D reps or diversify who our representatives are, sort of thing.
Oh,
So I mean, okay, should we answer? I don't know if you want to answer this question first, actually. Yes. Oh right, okay, right.
I told him he will vote and he will like it. So, you know.
What is the optimum amount of D reps then? Are we talking? And how many do we have at the moment?
I don't know.
Okay.
How many members of parliament you got in the UK?
It's
So-
about 300 odd,
well,
300 and something.
I don't know. We probably got like 1,000 or something, maybe if I had to throw it out there.
No, we have 100 senators and we have roughly like 358 representatives.
But we
We're
have
at that level.
in the UK, just it's probably similar in America. Obviously, we got like it's like 300 and something MPs, but you've also got councillors below them, and
Nobody cares about
so-
UK politics, man. What you talking about?
yeah. Well, all we hear is about. Do you know? I think I know more about American politics now than I do British politics.
Yeah. What's the news like in Britain? Are they trashing us?
Oh, loads.
Loads.
Yeah, like, yeah. No, not totally, because I mean, I watch a lot of BBC, which is very biased, kind of. It's mainstream media, but it's pretty generally biased towards the government. So, and the government. The thing is with our relationship with America, I don't know how you guys see the relationship with the UK and America, but we are actually like defensively quite intertwined. So like a decision your president makes does affect us. So if your president is saying you can't use our surveillance in Ukraine, it's kind of like, well, we can't do it either because we kind of share stuff. Like we're really intertwined like that. People don't realize that we're US and UK are more intertwined, not just politically but defensively than any other ally in the world.
Don't care. Hey, no, seriously though. You know why we're so intertwined now is because we spanked that ass in the 1780s. That's why.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to bring that up? But didn't France help you with that? Didn't France help you with that? And you trashed them for it the other day.
France did help out. Props to the French.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing the blockchain thing.
No, but seriously, no. But since then, since what was it, 1780? Like times did move on a little bit.
And
like,
1916 and 1943 and
but, I mean,
there's some more
culturally we are the same.
Was
Culturally,
it
we're the same.
18? Was it 1813 when the Brits came back and torched the White House? Is that what happened?
1812.
We hadn't forgot. I hadn't forgot that shit. So just
That was Canada's like most defining military victory.
So I follow a
Shout
lot
out
of.
to,
I do follow a
Canada.
lot of politics, so I know a lot of what's going on. And
I honestly completely tuned out.
yeah,
of all
it's
that
kind of
shit
cool that it's
about
funny
a
that
month ago, and man, it's so good, so nice. Don't
Like-
care. Burn the fucking world down. I do not care.
I mean, I'm
Right.
very much like I remember Charles did a video on this when he was talking about Elon. It's like you got to take people like that. People have good points, they have bad points, you know, and that's just the way people are. So Trump had like there are points of his that there's things about him that I do admire. The things he can do that are great. But there's also other things he does that I completely disagree with. And so do you know what I mean? So, and it's the same with Elon Musk. Like some shit, like when he's talking smack about the UK, I don't like it because he hasn't got a fucking clue what's going on. So I don't know why he does that.
He's saying, Josh, all he's saying is you guys got to pay the dues. That's all.
Well, we all pay our dues. Are you talking about NATO or something? Is that what you're
All of it.
Well, NATO is, you know, the EU pays the majority share, but that does still leave America paying like 49%. So it's a majority share, but by not much. But it's all judged by GDP, though, isn't it? So that's why they pay so much. But at the same time, you got to remember 9/11, the only time Article 5 in NATO was ever enacted. everyone jumped to your aid. So, you know, let's not break bones about it. We all lost money. We didn't ask for a thank you, and we didn't ask for our money back. And
Well,
do you know
thanks.
what I mean?
Yeah,
And we didn't chastise Trump when or whoever it was when they came over to ask for help. Bush, it was, sorry. We didn't fucking have a go at him. We didn't say, fucking hell, what you wearing? You like a dick. No, of course we didn't. But you know, but Trump
He
had
also
his
wasn't
way.
wearing a tracksuit. Let's be honest. Like
That's what meant. Do you know when Churchill visited America in the Second World War, he was in military fatigue, and that's the way it is. You know, and calling Zelensky a dictator, that was a bit of a dick move, because how can he get his people to vote when they could be fucking bombed? So, you know, but
you guys
on
got the
plus
drunk
side,
UK guy onto fucking politics. You're all a bunch of assholes. Like, we're all sober, and he's sitting here like, "Fuck you all," like he's ready to fight us.
I watched
no, but there are good things about Trump and Elon and his administration in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, that can be said for pretty much anyone. But
True.
I just
Well,
want to
not my
everyone-
prime minister. My prime minister is a dick. Like,
I mean,
I find very little about him that I like.
Are we seeing the right shit? Are they're straight up arresting people for making shit I post on Twitter every day?
There was some shit a while ago, but it was all a bit fucking like vague, and there was no real kind of hard facts to go by. It was all like we got Tommy Robinson that you might have heard of, who's in prison, but he's in prison for a fucking reason. Like,
okay. So they're not making y'all aren't as big as pussies as our media is making you out to be.
I don't know what you're seeing, but I know Tommy Robinson gets mentioned a lot, but he is in prison for a fucking reason. He's in isolation for a reason.
I get that, but the point I was trying to make, and I was trying to be funny, and I guess it missed, is that some of what we're seeing here is, and I think it rubs American citizens the wrong way, is that people are being sent to jail for speaking their mind. And getting locked up, and police are coming at their door for things.
It's not to say speaking their mind is a bit of an underdoing it a little bit. They're inciting stuff. They're making stuff happen. You know, really? We're not talking about protests. We're talking about violence and shit. Like,
yeah, but I mean, inciting is I wouldn't deem that as inciting. A social media comment stating an opinion. I don't see that as inciting. You know, if
just for the record, inciting violence is also against the law in the United States.
Yeah.
Like, so you have freedom of speech. You don't have freedom from consequences.
That's right.
Yeah, we don't have freedom of speech like America does.
Violence means that you actually incite fucking violence. Not
just ask Charles Manson.
Go do it now. Yeah, that's the way I see it. Yeah,
and it fucking happens. Like, you incite violence. Like, an action occurs after. It's like if I were in a trying to build a cult in the back end, and I had all my followers go do some.
No, that was
like Charles Manson. Yeah.
No, that was the Trump. I guess it wasn't an impeachment because it was after he had already lost the election, but that was what they were trying to use, basically accusing him of causing the January 6th riots or storming of the Capitol, whatever you want to call it, protest, depending on which side of the aisle you're on.
With his words, I think.
Right, but they were actually trying to charge him with a crime because of, for one, lack of calming down the situation, and two, then kind of fomenting and stirring the pot and getting people riled up.
He did calm it down,
which led to them.
That's not something over here. We don't focus it on too much. We just think it's some crazy American shit, and we don't really think too much about it. You know, we just.
But I mean, this is exactly why this is why I've tuned all this shit out, and I just stay 500 miles away from it because it does not affect my life whatsoever. Everything's gonna happen tomorrow. That happened yesterday.
Like, me and my wife,
I think
we thought it was like a Netflix series. We loved it. Like, you know, we loved watching it.
I think the biggest difference is that we don't count hurtful words as being violence towards another person.
Exactly.
Some people do.
Yeah,
well, I mean,
but
some people
there's-
consider it, but it's not actually against the law in the United States, right? Like
Right.
hurting
yeah, like
somebody's
you can
feelings
say
with your
the N
word
word.
is not.
You can say the N word.
Yeah, if you're an
We
asshole, you
can't.
can, right?
If you're an
Like,
asshole, yeah. I mean, but like you don't. Like, well, most people don't. I mean, if you, I mean,
It's a good way to get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
That
You know,
it
but
is
you
an
guys got
incitement to
guns.
violence,
No
but
one,
it's
no one's
inciting
getting your
violence
ass
against
kicked.
you.
I've seen the guns you have, Chris. No one's kicking your ass. Do you have open
If it's a
carry
fellow
where
U.S.
you are?
citizen, they will absolutely kick your ass. Like so, because they have a gun too. Like so, if you both
Yeah,
have
yeah,
guns, you both usually leave them.
everyone's got guns. It's not like
That means no one gets hurt, and everyone just has a shout at each other and walks away. You know.
well, yeah, but that's. I mean, it's just to us, it's weird. It's so weird that people. I don't know.
You heard about the social media thing? The social
get
media thing did get a bit weird, and it seemed to just stop. But it seemed more based on protests rather than anything else.
Maybe. I mean,
because there
we
were
see-
ringleaders. You got to attack. You know, when ringleaders cause violence, they should be held accountable. And if the evidence is the social media posts, then it kind of makes sense that you arrest those people. But
well, I mean, like, but like, what is it? It's like, I don't like these guys, or this is fucked up, and you know, or that group is retarded, and then that group gets all upset. Like, it's like that's the crime.
oh yeah, because you
Well,
said the
I
R
mean-
word. That's why. Yeah.
Oh,
Freaking
really?
hell.
So you call a bunch of people retards in Britain?
Yeah, they go crazy over here. Yeah.
There's some good parallels here with Cardano. If you look at the current constitution with words like sufficient, like incredibly subjective words that could be interpreted all kinds of different ways. You know, if we legislated everything about people's lives with things that might be offensive to this group or that group, you have to use these subjective words like offensive, because that, you know, there is no objective definition of offensive because it's different for every unique, you know, every individual.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So, That's
I
why I
agree.
think we need to clean up the Cardano Constitution to get rid of some of that
In the
bullshit.
UK. That's offensive.
But I mean, you like, as far as I'm aware, like American, you can hold up a sign saying faggot, N word, whatever, maybe a F word then, sorry, and N word, like whatever, and you know, and there's no consequence. Whereas over here, it's like, no, that's like that scares people, you know.
Well,
like,
there's
although it's only words,
it might,
if
like,
people are getting scared. There's
people see the signs on the cameras from the protest, but what they don't see is that person walking down the alley afterwards getting their ass stomped.
Well,
You know, I mean, there's consequences. You can go do dumb, like, and I hate to see it, but young people do real stupid shit and go out and
I was young once.
they think they're doing some big powerful thing by holding up this sign, and they're just going to get their ass kicked in 30 minutes.
I mean, but sometimes you see it
Yeah.
like, and they've got their kids with them. Like, they've got like a 3-year-old standing with them, helping them hold a sign.
Yeah,
saying,
there's idiots fucking everywhere, man. Like, yeah.
Yeah. But in over here, that would be illegal, and the police would just be like, "No, you can't. No, that's not happening. We're going to look at what's going on here." But you can't have truth. You can't have truth.
Martin has a good comment that's actually about the Cardano budget and not a bunch of like stupid bullshit
All right.
political commentary. So net change limit, everywhere it's been described has been, this is the maximum amount of withdrawals we're going to make in a given time period from the treasury.
So let's create
But
a
a net-
mathematical word that doesn't make sense.
Right, but a net change is the difference between your income and your outcome. That's your net, right? Like that's your net change. What came in, what went out, the net difference is the sum, or the, what do you call it? The difference of those two, the inflows and the outflows. So yeah, like it was a horrible name when the Constitution was first drafted. If I still had my original red pencil, you could see like fucking just red pen, no, like all around that thing. Like
Mathematically incorrect. Like, what if they pass a 350 million net change limit? That means we can maybe withdraw 50 million ADA, if you want to get technical about it, right?
no. So it would actually allow us to pull out like 550.
No, because we're going to get an income of 300,
Yeah.
and then
nice.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Well,
Atada's
yeah.
one of my favorite guys. Is that a Smartin, right?
Yep, that's Martin.
Yeah, no, he's one of my favorite.
yeah,
guys.
you're right. That's 700 million.
Right.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah, if 300 comes in and we have a 300 difference that we're allowed to have, then we could potentially pull out 600 million ADA or something. Like, it's all based on interpretation because these words don't mean what they're intended to mean.
You think someone's going to get well? If people are getting nitpicky about the Constitution now, that's when someone's
So
definitely.
can someone break that down a little bit? Those figures, I don't think were that obvious. But
Folks, I'm gonna run here. Thanks for having me.
The 300
Chat with
million
me another time.
Yeah, I think we're going to
Thanks,
shut
Jim.
it down soon.
Right. Okay. So let's say the idea is that the net change limit controls how much we're allowed to withdraw, right? So we can take
300
up
million.
to 300 million, but there's 300 million also coming in. So does every 1 million that comes in offset the amount that we've withdrawn? So does this actually describe an amount that we can go negative against the treasury in a given calendar year? That's what a net change would be. A total withdrawal cap or something like that would actually say, okay, you can only do this much withdrawals in a given time period, regardless of how much comes in.
Yeah.
But a net change actually means as long as income is coming in, you haven't actually triggered any net change.
Right.
Because there is no change.
It's income minus out. or actually, no, it's steady state plus income.
Right. So for every one that comes in, you can withdraw one and you will still be at a zero net change because the treasury has stayed at the exact same rate. So the way this is described would mean that we can pull out an additional 300 million on top of whatever comes in.
Yeah,
if
350
we're going by
million. Yeah, 350 million is greater than or equal to starting amount plus income minus
withdrawals. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the accounting definition of a net change.
Okay. All right. Are we good? Chris, you can pull that post down. Does anybody have anything else? Otherwise, we got a parting video we want to show you guys real quick.
So all that to say, my current opinion is that the currently proposed net change limit isn't detailed enough to actually protect us, and it'll lead to a lot of confusion on like what calendar year does it start on the first withdrawal, or is it when that becomes ratified? How do we replace that net change limit with a new one? Right, there's not enough detail in there to technically protect the blockchain. So I view it as a good effort, but it's not technically sufficient to protect to allow us to make clear, good decisions that we all agree on.
And it's also there's enough ambiguity in there. This is where I replied to him on his post was, is this a symmetrical point or is it asymmetric?
It's net, so it covers the in and out.
Yeah, but okay. Or then that's the case, then can we basically stop inflows into the treasury because of it?
But first, have you got a proposal already doing that, or is that unconstitutional?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I had the same question. If we blow what Chris is saying is if we blow the shit out of revenue, does that make taking transaction fees unconstitutional? Do you see what I'm saying? It's a net change. So it's like, what if we blow revenue out to where we get so much revenue in that we're spending less than what we're pulling in? That's the other end of it.
Yeah, like if we can't like increase the treasury by more than 50 million or decrease the treasury by 50 million or whatever. And so we have to live within 50 million of our means, whether that means decreasing taxes in a subsequent year or whatever. That would be a justification for something like the Tau decrease to be like, hey, last year we increased the treasury by 200 million. So we need to decrease taxes because obviously we're not spending enough to offset it or whatever. Yeah.
Stupid. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the unknown right now is we know what the people that drafted the Constitution intended, but what is in the Constitution itself is not sufficient to clearly define how this process looks and works. So
before we go, just from a obviously idiot perspective, so obviously CF said it was unconstitutional. Imogo said the same, but didn't they vote for it being constitutional?
Are you talking about that's the tax change? Yeah, like that.
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
different
I'm more. I was more focused on that. Actually, yeah,
I was greatly amused by Amargo's vote, though.
It's
Emergo's
I
five different
I
votes
needed
on the
someone
one
to
action.
explain
Is,
it.
really impressive.
I don't know where to do my info with the metadata. Rationale. It's the wrong one. All right, on that, I think we can close it down with a video. This one's for you, Emergo, too.
Look, put your hand in the air and try to break your wrist. Then across your chest and try to bite your ear. And go bang, 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 bang.
You're going to hell.
I saw that. Yeah, you are going to hell, but yeah. Just because it's funny doesn't stop me going to hell.
Yeah.
But I saw that, yeah.
Forgive him, Jesus, for he knows not what he does.
Forgive me, I did.
Also,
like
UK government. Josh had nothing to do with this. That was wrong. So.
That's me.
I know it was
Here,
all Carl. I
please,
saw the original post.
All right, guys.
Hey, thanks for the heads up, guys. Enjoyed it.